This morning, about an hour ago, uh, I got a message from a student of mine responding to what I said last evening. Uh, the subject of my video yesterday was the life of a citizen, for citizen or something like that in the morning, in my morning experience as a citizen. And she had listened to that and responded. Uh, I'm heartened by this thing, by the fact that there is a response, because I believe we are slowly forming a community. And at the moment, it is a community of one, and I'm very happy about this community of one. One. There is a little famous phrase, I don't remember exactly, but Ralph Waldo Emerson, in his essay, Self-Reliance, I think, said, of a community, a majority of one. What if I have only a majority of one? Let me see his view. He was speaking. So similarly, I am very happy with a community of one, and that's what it's all about. We are forming a community where we share our experiences and not pontificate. No solutions are there, but we share our experiences in the community. That's what it is. So to that extent, it was a good feeling, and that's why I'm responding straight away, not only to her, but what I say may have some amount of relevance to all who may listen. When I say all, I don't mean a whole big bunch of people, maybe 10, maybe 12, who knows. That's about it, and that's all that I have in mind. My student, don't ask me who is the student. I have once a student, always a student. That's how I see it. My student shares in a very lengthy, longish post, WhatsApp, her actual experience of the medical profession, of doctors. She shares her actual experience. First about how it was with her father, who has unfortunately passed away, and now in the last couple of weeks, her own ailment and her experience with the doctors. Now, one quality that she brings out, and that's in capital letters, is arrogance of the doctors, arrogance of the medical profession. Well, dear student, I want to hold your hand and say, kind of console you and say, I've had similar experiences too. But let me add a caveat, and that's very important, that I don't have experience with a whole lot of doctors. Because, by God's grace, I suppose, I haven't had to visit many doctors. But since I'm commenting on you and sharing with you your hurt and feeling of resentment, I would just get my mind into what my experiences were. And I think the sample we are talking is just a very small sample of 5 or 6 visits in the past few years, 5 years, 6 years. So that's not a big sample, but then we are a community. We are not actually doing a statistical enterprise. We're just sharing. So that's it. So out of 5 or 6 visits, I think about 3 to 4 were in that kind of category, a feeling of hurt and not feeling, and feeling that you were not really treated properly, and the other 2 were fair enough, fair. Now, I want to share again with you those experiences, not in detail, not with resentment at all, but the factual experience. One experience that stands out very negatively is, I won't name anybody. I was visiting a doctor here, and when I inquired, I had to register my name pretty early, and he would start his private clinic at about 8 o'clock. But you had to register by 6 o'clock. Okay, fine. I duly went there and registered my name at 6 o'clock. I mean, there were already 4 or 5 people already registered, and I therefore guessed that people were waking up in the morning or sending some relative there to put their name in the list. So the information that I got there was that the whole thing begins at 8 o'clock. So I thought the best thing would be for me to sit down somewhere, and there was a hall or something like, small auditorium, and I was sitting there, and I decided that I would sit till all this begins. The little auditorium soon filled up, and there were about more than 100 persons there already. So I said to myself, look, this is a pretty a big crowd, so be it. So anyway, I comforted myself with the thought that I was number 5 in the list, and therefore things are going to be pretty okay. And they were not bad in the sense that I was called after some time. But anyway, then of course I saw that there were a lot of electronic things and name boards, which I thought were a little put off. I mean, not quite the thing that I expected, but it's okay. It was okay. And then when it was the noise was beginning, the announcements and the flashing on the electronic board was beginning, I realized that there were some leftovers of yesterday. Therefore, when I looked at it, the Malayalam announcement said these people number 134 and 145 and whatever over there. So, okay, I said that's all. That's about it. I mean, that's how it works. So people were going in 135 and then 145 or 157 or 208. And they had those visits. And then it came to number 1, and I was saying, pretty good. Mine is number 5. So when it came to 1 and 2 and all that, I saw that these announcements were being made pretty fast. So I said to myself, okay, this is a pretty fast thing that people go in and come out very quickly. This is the way probably it works, okay. But I couldn't, this was coming up, number 1, and it soon, in a couple of minutes, number 2 and all that. Okay. I also saw that people were rushing in dutifully before the door, the number 2 waiting there dutifully for the number 1 to finish. So I followed the same procedure, and by the time it was number 3 or number 4, because I wouldn't know when my time would come, I was there at the door, and lo and behold, a number 5 came up, and I went in. I found, of course, number 6 and 7 were waiting and probably breathing down my neck there very quickly. I mean, they were there. That didn't give me a good feeling anyway. I went in, and what I noticed was that the doctor's body language showed impatience. He was wanting to be done with it. This is the kind of impatience you see when you're with somebody, you're buying a ticket for your railways. No longer, I suppose, there's some other way. But in the old days, you had to stand and the ticket guy, the one who was dispensing the ticket, would give one and then another one and so on. So that was the body language. that he was impatient and he was doing. Anyway, this impatience was coupled with a certain amount of, the body language showed, say, so what's wrong with you? That kind of, he didn't speak, but so he gestured, what is it, and all that. And as soon I was on the bed or the examination bed, and it was all done in a jiffy, and everything about it was not only the tone was what my student called arrogant, not particularly something against me, but then generally the playing God before the others, poor fellows, who were there just waiting. And I saw that many of those who were waiting were just waiting as though they were waiting for God. So anyway, that was it. And then there was a terrible hurry because by the time he said, okay, and said, was dashing off a list of medicines and things like that, I knew that number 6 was being called and then another number and so on. So I remember that I had to kind of scramble out of the bed. And in that process, I think my mundu or dhoti unraveled. So that was a little bit of a thing. And he said, he gestured, you can take your time putting the mundu on you. But then I scrambled my way out, and then somehow, after kind of thanking him dutifully, I went out. This is the experience I had. Well, there are other experiences. I don't want to detail those experiences because I do not know how the listeners are going to be patient enough to listen to all this thing. But anyway, the second one, it goes a little backwards where my wife was having a surgery and of course it was kind of scheduled for a certain day soon, and I had to get a clearance from the general medicine doctor about her medical condition, which is normal. And then he really kind of hectored in a hectoring tone. He said in Malayalam, which is translated like this: with this kind of BP, I can't give the clearance for surgery. So that was a bit thing. I didn't know she had high BP. I mean, she was taking some medicine for BP, but obviously when the BP was taken, she might have felt a bit more nervous. But I noted the hectoring tone. Here is somebody who's waiting there, his wife, surgery and all that, he requires us to know when and how and what next and so on. So that hectoring tone, that was about 6 or 7 years ago. I could, these negative experiences and all that, go on and on, but it's not my purpose. Before I speak of experiences which are totally of the arrogant kind, I would want to, compensate it by my experience about 50 years ago, which may not be relevant, to a great physician, Dr. K.N. Pai, with whom I traveled in a car from Tiruvandhuram to Kollam. He was kind enough to meet my father. To visit my father, who was not well. After his visit to the Niles Hospital, I found him a gentle soul, full of compassion, full of kindness, and there was something in him that would, I suppose, that quality would have reassured any patient. Before I leave this point and go to another point very quickly, I've always felt that I know this saying, or it is really more than a saying, that doctors treat, but God heals. The healing touch. Now, it doesn't mean God comes in and all that. It doesn't mean that I'm making a theological statement. But there is a healing involved, and the doctors have to help in that process, apart from treating. This healing touch perhaps isn't there from the experience of my student, which is a very recent one. I do not know what it is really in the whole community of doctors, nor am I presumptuous enough to comment about this quality or for the whole universe of doctors. My point next is, how do you, shall we say, how do you make these doctors? What is the system that leads on to medical professional education? And then I have to say that the whole thing, not only of medical education, but the whole thing, everything, including the civil services, is all marks-based. From school, right up to from school, is all marks-based. And then they're put through all these marks and examinations. And then there is, of course, the great entrance exams. And it is only marks-based. They all struggle for these exams, and of course, the coaching centers make a lot of money, and that runs to lakhs. And the parents think at the end of the day there will be this thing that they will become doctors. Now that's getting it wrong from the very beginning. Where is the mentoring, I ask myself? I may be wrong, and I hate to be a pope. I suggest, where is the mentoring? Where is the test of a social commitment spirit, a social caring spirit of the young people? How many of them do volunteer during their school days for some social program? How many courses are there for helping them towards these social programs and activities? What is the kind of education that you give? What is the mentorship? Not only in school, but more importantly, in the college and in the medical college too. I do not have any information to speak with authority on this, but I whisper on these topics. I do not expect anyone to come up with some instant solutions. I know that all changes of this nature, if what I say and what I assume is true, that there is no mentorship, the selection is not broad-based on a whole lot of seeing what the footprints of people who aspire to medical education are. Because right from school to the college, there should be some footprints of those individuals who want to do medical education for the community, who are not self-centered, who want to do something. There should be footprints, and there should be ways of judging all that, and then having a selection process based on a multiplicity of factors, in which marks come in as just one factor or ingredient. I'm not aware of these things, and as I share my students' concerns, I would just remark, just comment on this thing, without at all having a hectoring tone. I really don't know about it, but these are thoughts that come to me. To my student, particularly because it is she who kind of provoked me into this thinking, into this concern, I say in a positive sense. Dear student, be aware that arrogance is not exclusive to medical profession, and it is everywhere, and no area is exempt, and nothing is more pronounced about this quality of arrogance than in administration. And I believe you are preparing for the administrative exams. Remember that administration is a place where arrogance reigns supreme. Well, to all readers, to all listeners, I say thank you for your patience, for listening to me. And if you find there is some sense in anything that I said, or even criticize what I said, please do, because after all, we are a community. Have a good day.